What it is like to be a failed space marine. The rejection came in silence, not with words, not with gestures, but with the cold truth of my body refusing what should have been my destiny. I still feel the surgical steel against my skin, the burn of the first implants, and the fever that would not break for 13 days. Now, I shuffle through shadow corridors as something lesser, something broken. The initiates call us the walking dead. Each day, I tend to the twisted remains of those whose bodies rebelled more violently than mine. But deep in the lower vaults of the fortress monastery, I have seen something in the failed experiments. Something changing, something evolving, and I wonder, is it truly failure when rejection opens the door to becoming something far more significant than a space marine could ever be? The rejection came in silence. Not with a condemning word, not with a dismissive gesture, but with the cold observation of my body rejecting what should have been my ascension. I still remember the surgical steel against my skin, the burn of the first implants, and then the fever that would not break for 13 days. When I awoke, I knew. The apothecaries never had to say it. Their eyes told me everything. I was Marius Velton, and I had failed the Emperor. The fortress monastery of the Iron Templars stands embedded within the mountain range of Crassus Prime. Vast black stone walls rise like the spine of some ancient beast, dormant yet alive with purpose. I once dreamed of walking its hallowed halls as a battle brother. Now I shuffle through its shadow corridors as something lesser, something broken. The initiates call us the walking dead, those who survived the rejection but not the shame. We are the reminders of weakness they must purge from themselves. My duties are simple. I maintain the servitors that tend to the failed aspirants kept in stasis, monitor nutrient feeds, and record biological data. Each day I see the twisted remains of those whose bodies rebelled against the Emperor's gifts more violently than mine. Some are barely recognizable as human. Lipless mouths forever locked in silent screams. Limbs bent and fused at impossible angles. Torsos swollen with malformed organs attempting to burst forth from yellowed skin. These are the true rejects, kept alive only for study, for the apothecaries to understand why they failed so that others might succeed. I was fortunate, they tell me. My rejection was clean. My body simply said no. No dramatic mutation, no agonizing transformation. Just inadequacy. Chief Apothecary Dravus assigned me to the lower vaults, specifically because of this. You will see what true failure looks like, Velton, he told me, his voice neither cruel nor kind, simply factual. And in witnessing it, you may still serve the chapter in ways your weak flesh could not. The servitors I work with were once like me. Failed aspirants whose minds were wiped clean and replaced with simple cogitator programming. Their limbs removed and replaced with mechanical appendages designed for specific tasks. Sometimes I catch a glimpse in their vacant eyes, a momentary spark of recognition, as if somewhere deep inside they remember standing where I now stand. I wonder if they are the fortunate ones. To have the burden of consciousness lifted, replaced with uncomplicated purpose. Each morning begins the same. I awake in my small cell in the servants' quarters, don the grey robes that mark me as monastery staff, and descend to the vaults. The temperature drops with each level until my breath forms clouds before my face. The lighting dims until shadows consume all but the most essential workspaces. It is a place designed to be forgotten. The vaults extend far beneath the fortress monastery, deeper than most battle brothers know. 7 levels of increasingly sensitive research and storage. I have clearance for levels 1 through 4. The rejection ward is on level 3. Level 4 houses the storage gene seed cultivation chambers, where I am permitted to service only the external monitoring equipment. Levels 5 through 7 are restricted to the highest-ranking apothecaries and the chapter master himself. Today, like all days, I check each stasis pod, verifying life signs and nutrient levels. Pod 17 has been problematic lately. Its occupant, once a promising aspirant named Kavin, rejected his catalepsian node implant. His brain activity spikes unpredictably, sometimes causing the stasis field to fluctuate. I adjust the sedative mixture and make a notation in the log. Candidate Velten. A voice interrupts my work. I turn to see Brother Apothecary Thule, his massive power-armored form filling the corridor. Even without his helm, his features seem more statue than flesh, his eyes cold and analytical. Chief Apothecary Dravis requires additional assistance in Laboratory Delta. Bring servitor units 8 through 12. I bow my head in acknowledgement. Yes, Brother Apothecary. Immediately. This is unusual. Laboratory Delta is on level 5. I have never been permitted below level 4. I do not ask questions. Questions are not my place. I activate the servitor units, their mechanical limbs whirring to life, optical sensors glowing a dull red. They form a line behind me as I follow Brother Thule to the restricted elevator shaft. The descent to level 5 is brief but feels momentous. The air changes, becomes charged somehow, like the atmosphere before a storm. When the doors slide open, I keep my eyes downcast as protocol demands. I see only polished stone floors inlaid with silver runes I do not recognize. Brother Thule leads me through a series of security checkpoints, each more stringent than the last. My heart pounds in my chest. Even after 3 years of service, proximity to a fully realized Astartes fills me with both awe and crushing reminder of my own failure. Laboratory Delta is vast, at least 3 times the size of any research space on the upper levels. The ceiling arches high overhead, supported by buttresses carved with prayers to the Omnissiah. The center of the room is dominated by a circular platform surrounded by cogitator banks and monitoring equipment. On the platform lies a single stasis pod, different from those I maintain above. This one is transparent, revealing its occupant fully. What I see within makes me stop involuntarily. The servitors behind me halt, awaiting direction. Inside the pod lies a form that is neither fully human nor fully Astartes. Its proportions are wrong, limbs too long, muscle mass distributed unevenly across a torso that appears to have begun the transformation process but stopped midway. The skin is mottled, patches of ceramic-like hardness interspersed with raw red flesh. But most disturbing is the face. One half appears normal, handsome even, while the other has expanded grotesquely, the eye socket widened to accommodate an organ that pulses with unnatural light. Servitor maintenance as instructed, Chief Apothecary, Brother Thule announces. Only then do I notice Chief Apothecary Dravis at a monitoring station. He turns, his ancient face bearing the scars of countless centuries of service. Unlike most Astartes, whose expressions remain stoic and unreadable, Dravis allows a frown to crease his features. Velten, he acknowledges me with a nod. The monitoring servitors need recalibration. They are failing to record the subtle changes in the subject's neurotransmitter levels. Your experience with the rejection ward equipment should be adequate. Yes, Chief Apothecary, I respond, moving toward the servitor control console. As I work, I cannot help but steal glances at the being in the stasis pod. Something about it seems familiar, though I know this is impossible. I have never been to this level before. Yet there is something in the unaltered half of its face that strikes a chord in my memory. You recognize him, Dravis says, his voice startling me. It is not a question. I freeze, uncertain how to respond. Lying to an Astartes is futile. They can hear the change in your heartbeat, smell the fear response in your sweat. There is something familiar, Lord, though I cannot place it. I admit. Dravis approaches the stasis pod, placing a massive gauntleted hand upon its surface. This was Brother Carolus of the 5th Company. He volunteered for an experimental procedure intended to enhance the catalepsian node, allowing Astartes to function without rest for up to 60 days in combat situations. I say nothing. Knowing more will be revealed if I wait. The procedure failed, Dravis continues, but not in any way we anticipated. Instead of rejecting the enhancement, his body began to transform it and adapt it. We believed at first we had stumbled upon a breakthrough. Then the mutations began. I glance at the subject again, noting how the enlarged eye seems to track movements even in stasis. This cannot be possible. Why am I permitted to see this, Lord? I finally ask. Dravus turns his ancient gaze upon me. Because you have demonstrated both competence and discretion in your duties, and because we require someone with your unique perspective for the next phase of research. My perspective, Lord? You rejected the gene seed cleanly. Your body recognized it as incompatible and shut down the transformation process without complication. We believe this genetic response may hold the key to controlling the mutations we now face with Brother Carolus and 3 others like him. The revelation sits heavy in my chest. After 3 years of existing as a reminder of failure, my rejection might actually serve a purpose. The irony is not lost on me. What would you have me do, Chief Apothecary? Continue your regular duties, but report to Laboratory Delta each 3rd cycle. We will require blood samples, tissue analysis, and cognitive mapping. Brother Thule will escort you. Dravus turns back to his monitoring station. Finish the servitor recalibration. The subject shows increased brain activity today. As I return to my work, I notice the eye within the stasis pod has fixed directly on me. A chill runs down my spine that has nothing to do with the temperature of the laboratory. Against all protocols of stasis technology, I would swear that the being once known as Brother Carolus is aware of my presence. Aware, and somehow interested. The servitors complete their recalibration, and I am escorted back to level 3. I resume my duties with the rejected aspirants, but my mind remains in Laboratory Delta. For the first time in 3 years, I feel something beyond the numb routine of survival. I feel purpose. Yet beneath that purpose lurks something else, something I dare not examine too closely. A question forms in my mind: if my genetic rejection holds the key to controlling mutation, might it also hold the key to successful implementation? I push the thought away. Such speculation borders on tech heresy. I am Marius Velton, failed aspirant, servitor handler. I must remember my place. But as I check the nutrient feeds on Pod 17, I find myself studying the failed catalepsian node implementation with new interest. The technical data scrolls across my data slate, and for the first time, I truly begin to understand. That night, sleep eludes me. In the darkness of my small cell, I see the mutated form of Brother Carolus, his enlarged eye following me. And behind that image, a new possibility takes shape, a dangerous idea I cannot quite banish. If the Iron Templars seek to control mutation through my genetic resistance, could that same principle be reversed? Could what makes me incompatible be somehow altered? I tell myself I am a loyal servant of the chapter, that I have accepted my place, but the seed of ambition, once planted, is not easily uprooted. And in the dark of night, even the most faithful harbor secrets. 3 days pass before I am summoned again to Laboratory Delta. In that time, I access the archives under the pretense of maintaining the data cores. The information I seek is heavily restricted, but my position grants me limited access to technical specifications of the gene seed implantation process. I am careful, methodical. I leave no trace of my inquiries. What I learn both fascinates and terrifies me. The catalepsian node that failed to take root in Brother Carolus is the same implant that caused the highest rejection rate among aspirants of my intake group. 5 of us failed at this stage, myself included. The technical data suggests a correlation between certain rare blood factors and the rejection. My own medical file confirms I carry this blood factor. A coincidence perhaps, but my mind races with implications. When Brother Thule comes for me on the 3rd day, I have composed myself. I follow him silently to Laboratory Delta, the servitors trailing behind us. But this time, as the elevator doors open to level 5, I notice immediately that something is different. The air carries a tang of ozone and antiseptic, stronger than before. The lighting has been intensified, and there are more apothecaries present. Chief Apothecary Dravus stands not by the monitoring station but at the stasis pod itself. Beside him is a figure I have never seen before, clad not in the black power armor of the Iron Templars but in the white and red of the Adeptus Mechanicus. A magos biologis, his face more machine than man, multiple optical enhancements whirring as they focus and refocus on the pod's occupant. The subject shows increasing neural activity despite stasis protocols. The magos states, his voice a metallic rasp. The mutation has accelerated in the frontal lobe region. Fascinating adaptation. Adaptation is not our goal, Magos Aaron, Dravis responds firmly. Containment and reversal remain the priorities. Of course, Chief Apothecary. Though the Omnissiah reveals knowledge through many paths, even those we did not intend to walk, I stand at a respectful distance with the servitors, awaiting instructions. The Magos's optical units suddenly swivel toward me, focusing with an audible click. "This is the genetic rejection case?" he inquires. "Yes." Dravis confirms, Marius Velton, failed aspirant during catalepsy and node implementation. The Magos approaches me, mechanical appendages extending from his robes to hover near my face. I remain perfectly still, though every instinct screams to recoil. "Your genetic markers are of particular interest, failed aspirant," the Magos states. "The compatibility algorithms suggest your rejection was not due to weakness, but to an unusual form of resistance. Your body recognized the foreign implant and mounted a precise immune response rather than a systemic rejection. I do not know how to respond to this." The Magos continues his examination, a mechadendrite extending to take a blood sample from my neck without warning. I wince but do not pull away. "We will require neural tissue as well," the Magos informs Dravis. The comparison between his neural architecture and the subject's may provide the control mechanism we seek. "Prepare the surgical suite," Dravis orders one of the other apothecaries. "The procedure will commence in 3 hours." My heart rate increases involuntarily. Neural tissue extraction is not a minor procedure. Though I know I will not be asked for consent, the reality of my situation becomes suddenly, starkly clear. I am no longer merely an observer or assistant. I am now a research subject myself. "Direct the servitors to transfer the primary subject," Dravis instructs me, gesturing toward the stasis pod. Magos Aaron wishes to perform preliminary scans in the adjacent laboratory. I nod and move to the servitor control console. As I input the commands, I notice something unusual on the monitoring display. The brain activity of the subject is not random as I had first thought. There is a pattern to it, a repeating sequence that seems almost like .code. I do not mention this observation. Instead, I direct the servitors to carefully disconnect the stasis pod from its primary power source and switch to the auxiliary systems for transport. As they do so, there is a momentary fluctuation in the stasis field. For less than a second, the field wavers, almost imperceptible unless one is watching for it. In that fraction of a second, the enlarged eye of Brother Carolus locks directly onto mine, and in that moment, I know with absolute certainty that he is conscious, aware, communicating. The stasis field stabilizes immediately. The servitors continue their work, oblivious. I glance at the monitoring station, but the brief power fluctuation does not appear to have registered. No alarms sound. No one else seems to have noticed. As the servitors begin to move the stasis pod toward the adjacent laboratory, I feel a pressure in my mind, a whisper that is not a sound, a presence that should not be possible through a stasis field. "I see you, failed one," the voice murmurs in my thoughts. "I see your ambition, your hunger, so much like my own." I nearly stumble, catching myself against a console. Brother Thule glances at me with mild curiosity but says nothing. I straighten and continue directing the servitors, trying to convince myself the voice was imagination, stress, the anticipation of the surgical procedure to come. "They will take pieces of you," the voice continues, "just as they took pieces of me, and when they have what they need, what will remain of Marius Velton? Another servitor, another failed experiment, or something new entirely?" I focus on my breathing, on the servitor control console, on anything but the voice. Yet it persists, a subtle pressure at the base of my skull. "I can show you another way," it whispers. I can show you how to become what you were meant to be. The stasis pod passes through the doorway into the adjacent laboratory. The pressure in my mind recedes, but the echo of the words remains. I complete my duties mechanically, aware that in 3 hours I will be strapped to an operating table, portions of my brain tissue extracted for study. As I exit Laboratory Delta, escorted by Brother Thule back to Level 3, a new thought forms. If the stasis field can be breached by the mutated consciousness of Brother Carolus, what other impossibilities might be possible? And if I am to lose parts of myself regardless, what do I truly have to lose by listening to the voice? I return to my duties in the rejection ward, checking nutrients and monitoring life signs as always. But inside, something has changed. For the first time since my rejection, I feel fear giving way to a darker emotion, opportunity, and with it comes the first tremor of what I will later recognize as the beginning of my fall. When they come for me 3 hours later, I am ready, not to resist, for that would be futile, but to observe, to understand, and perhaps to listen more closely to the voice that offered another way. The surgical suite on Level 5 gleams with immaculate precision. I am directed to remove my grey robes and lie upon the operating table. Servitors secure restraints across my limbs and torso. A neural crown is placed upon my head, its tiny needles poised to penetrate my skull at precise coordinates. Magos Eren looms over me, optical units adjusting to focus on my face. The procedure will extract 17 microdrill samples from your cerebral cortex, he informs me. You will remain conscious throughout to provide baseline cognitive readings. Pain suppression will be administered, but complete elimination is not possible without compromising data integrity. I nod my understanding. Fear is present, but distant, as though happening to someone else. Chief Apothecary Dravus appears at the edge of my vision. Your service honors the chapter, Velton, he says, his tone formal. The knowledge gained may save Brother Carolus and prevent similar mutations in future. Astartes. I live to serve, Chief Apothecary. I respond automatically. The procedure begins. The neural crown activates, tiny drills whirring to life. The pain suppression is minimal, as promised. Each extraction feels like a white-hot wire being pushed into my brain, then slowly withdrawn. I grit my teeth, determined not to cry out. Pride, at least, remains to me. On the third extraction, something unexpected happens. As the drill penetrates my frontal lobe, a flash of memory surfaces. Not my memory, but something alien, something that should not exist in my mind. I see through the eyes of Brother Carolus as he volunteers for the experimental procedure. I feel his pride, his certainty that he will emerge stronger, more valuable to the chapter. The memory shifts. Agony beyond description. The catalepsian node not merely enhancing his abilities but changing, evolving, reaching into parts of his brain that should be inaccessible. And with that change, a new awareness dawning. The ability to reach beyond his physical form, to touch other minds, to influence the very technology meant to contain him. The drill withdraws, and the memory fades. I gasp for breath, sweat pouring from my body. Interesting spike in delta wave activity. Magos Eren notes dispassionately, mark the sample. The procedure continues. 2 more extractions, 2 more glimpses into memories that are not mine. Brother Carolus discovering his new abilities. Brother Carolus reaching out to the servitors, subtle manipulations of their programming. Brother Carolus searching for minds similar to his own, minds with the potential to understand. By the 12th extraction, I am shaking uncontrollably. The Magos adjusts the restraints and continues. The pain is no longer relevant. What matters are the fragments of knowledge being transferred to me with each invasion of my brain. Not random memories, I realize, but carefully selected information. Brother Carolus is using the procedure itself as a conduit, turning the very tools of the apothecaries against them. The 17th and final extraction is the most painful, the drill penetrating deeper than the others. With it comes not a memory but an instruction, complex and multifaceted, implanted directly into my neural pathways. I feel it take root, a seed of corruption disguised as illumination. When the neural crown is finally removed, I lie trembling on the operating table. Blood trickles from the tiny wounds in my scalp. Magos Eren examines the collected samples, already forgetting my presence. Fascinating neural architecture, he comments to Dravis. The resistance factor appears to be localized in the rejection of specific synthetic proteins. With proper modification, we may be able to create a targeted counteragent. I am released from the restraints and helped into a sitting position by a servitor. No one asks how I feel. No one inquires about the experience. I am merely the source of the samples, my purpose fulfilled. Return to your quarters for recovery. Dravis instructs me. Report to Laboratory Delta in 2 days for follow-up examination. I nod weakly and allow myself to be escorted back to Level 3. In my small cell, I collapse onto the narrow bed, exhaustion claiming me immediately. But sleep brings no peace. In my dreams, Brother Carolus stands before me, his form no longer confined to the stasis pod. He is magnificent and terrible, his mutated features now seeming not a corruption but an evolution. His enlarged eye pulses with inner light, seeing things beyond normal perception. You have received the first gift, he tells me. Your mind now contains the keys. In 2 days, when you return to Laboratory Delta, you will execute the protocol I have given you. What will happen? I ask in the dream. His lipless mouth forms what might be a smile. Liberation, transformation, the fulfillment of potential denied to us both. I will become Astartes? Even in the dream, I hear the desperate hope in my voice. You will become something far more significant, Brother Carolus promises. Neither failed aspirant nor limited Astartes, but something new. Something necessary for the survival of the species. The Emperor, I begin. The Emperor created the Primarchs, and from them, the Astartes. Carolus interrupts. Evolution by design. What happens now is simply the next step, unplanned but inevitable. Evolution finds a way, Marius Velton. And you and I shall be its instruments. I wake with a gasp, my body drenched in sweat. The dream remains vivid, unlike normal dreams that fade upon waking. The instructions planted in my mind during the extraction procedure pulse with clarity. I know exactly what I must do when I return to Laboratory Delta, every step laid out with precision. The rational part of me recognizes this as manipulation, as corruption. Brother Carolus is no longer an Astartes in any meaningful sense. Whatever mutation has claimed him has also altered his loyalties, his purpose. To follow his instructions would be betrayal of the chapter, of the Emperor himself. Yet as I lie in the darkness, I cannot help but wonder. Was my rejection truly a failure of my flesh, or was it the chapter failing to recognize my true potential? If Brother Carolus speaks truly, and I could become something beyond even the Astartes, is that not a form of service? Is that not fulfilling the Emperor's will for humanity to evolve, to become stronger? Such thoughts are dangerous, heretical even. I should report them immediately, confess to Chief Apothecary Dravis that Brother Carolus has somehow reached into my mind. That would be the loyal thing to do. Instead, I rise from my bed and move to the small desk in the corner of my cell. From a hidden compartment beneath it, I withdraw a data slate I had appropriated months ago from a decommissioned servitor. On it, I begin to record everything I have learned, both from the archives and from Brother Carolus himself. Knowledge is power, and I am no longer willing to remain powerless. The next day, I perform my duties in the rejection ward as always. My head throbs where the drills penetrated, but I show no outward sign of discomfort. The failed aspirants in their stasis pods seem different to me now. Not objects of pity or reminders of my own inadequacy, but data points in a larger pattern. Their failures, like mine, may serve a purpose unforeseen by the chapter. Pod 17 captures my attention again. Kavin, the aspirant whose catalepsy and node rejection caused irregular brain activity. I check his readings more carefully than usual. The patterns are subtle but unmistakable once you know what to look for. Not random spikes, but coded pulses. Similar to what I observed with Brother Carolus, though far less sophisticated. I glance around to ensure no one is watching, then adjust the nutrient mixture flowing into Cavin's pod. Nothing dangerous, nothing that would trigger alarms. Simply a modification to the standard formula, increasing certain neural stimulants while decreasing sedatives. A small experiment of my own. As I complete my rounds, Brother Thule appears at the entrance to the rejection ward. His expression is unreadable as always, but there is a tension in his posture I have not seen before. Candidate Velton, he addresses me. Your presence is required in Laboratory Epsilon immediately. Laboratory Epsilon, not Delta, where I had undergone the extraction procedure. Epsilon is unfamiliar to me, not mentioned in any of the archives I had accessed. Unease settles in my stomach, but I nod in acknowledgement. Yes, Brother Apothecary, immediately. I follow him to the elevator, noting we descend not to level 5 but to level 6. The security checkpoints here are even more stringent. Retinal scans, genetic verification, neural pattern analysis. I submit to each in turn, wondering why I am being granted access to a level supposedly restricted to only the highest-ranking apothecaries. Laboratory Epsilon makes Delta appear crude by comparison. The technology here is beyond anything I have seen, some of it bearing the distinct hallmarks of Xenos influence, though carefully sanctified with Imperial iconography. At the center of the laboratory stands not a stasis pod but a massive containment sphere, its surface a shifting matrix of energy fields and hexagrammic wards. Within the sphere floats what remains of a space marine. Or rather, what a space marine has become. The figure has shed all pretense of humanity. Its armor has been incorporated into its flesh, ceramite and bone, fused into a new substance that pulses with internal light. Its head has elongated, the skull splitting to accommodate a crown of sensory organs that writhe with apparent intelligence of their own. Where the face should be is a vertical slit from which emanates a soft, keening sound just at the edge of hearing. I stop involuntarily, horror and fascination warring within me. This is mutation far beyond what I witnessed with Brother Carolus. This is transformation into something utterly alien. Chief Apothecary Dravis and Magos Aaron stand before a control console, deep in conversation. They look up as Brother Thule escorts me forward. Candidate Velton, Dravis acknowledges me. I trust you have recovered adequately from yesterday's procedure. Yes, Chief Apothecary, I respond, my eyes drawn back to the containment sphere. You are wondering why you have been brought here, Dravis states. Why you are permitted to see what few even among the chapter know exists. I remain silent, waiting. The being before you was once Brother Falmius of the Third Company, Dravis continues. He was the first to undergo the experimental catalepsian node enhancement, the first to experience the mutation. And soon, we believe, the first to complete the transformation into something else entirely. The Rubicon Abominatus. Magos Aaron intones, a note of what might be reverence in his metallic voice. The what, Lord? I ask before I can stop myself. A theoretical threshold, Dravis explains, beyond which human evolution accelerates exponentially, uncontrolled by either natural selection or careful engineering. A point of no return. Brother Carolus approaches this threshold, Magos Aaron adds, but has not yet crossed it. Brother Falmius, as you can see, has progressed much further. 3 others are at various stages between them. I look again at the thing in the containment sphere. Its keening has changed pitch, becoming almost melodic. I feel a pressure similar to what I experienced with Brother Carolus, but stronger, more insistent. I resist it, focusing on Dravis's words. Your neural tissue has provided valuable insights, Dravis tells me. Your natural resistance to the catalepsian node implantation may be the key to developing a cure, or at least a means of controlling the progression. I am honored to serve, Chief Apothecary, I respond automatically. There is more required of you. Dravis continues. Magos Aaron has determined that your neural architecture possesses unique properties. Properties that may allow you to communicate with the affected brothers without risking contamination yourself. For a moment, I cannot process what I am hearing. They wish me to communicate with these mutated Astartes, to expose my mind directly to whatever has transformed them. I do not understand, Lord, I manage to say. I am a failed aspirant. How could I possibly? Precisely because you failed, Magos Aaron interrupts. Your rejection was not a weakness, but a specific form of resistance. You possess neural pathways that are incompatible with the mutation vector, yet similar enough to establish communication. You are, in effect, immune yet receptive. The implications are staggering. For 3 years I have lived with the shame of rejection, only to discover now that my failure might be my greatest value to the chapter. What would you have me do? I ask, though I already suspect the answer. Dravus gestures to a device next to the containment sphere. It resembles a modified neural crown, similar to what was used during my extraction procedure but more elaborate, with additional interfaces and restraint systems. You will be connected to a neural interface, he explains. It will allow controlled communication with Brother Falmius while maintaining appropriate safeguards against mental corruption. The risk is minimal, Magos Aaron adds, though something in his tone suggests this is not entirely true. You will be closely monitored. Any sign of contamination, and the connection will be severed immediately. I look again at the thing that was once Brother Falmius. The vertical slit in its face has widened slightly, revealing rows of crystalline structures where teeth should be. The keening sound has modulated again, now resembling distant, discordant voices speaking in unison. Every instinct tells me to refuse, to say no, I cannot do this. But refusing an Astartes, let alone the chief apothecary, is not an option available to me. More than that, I realize with growing clarity that this is opportunity, knowledge, power. Everything Brother Carolus promised might be accessible through this connection as well. I am ready to serve, I say, moving toward the neural interface. The preparation is thorough. Servitors attach neural monitors to my body. Magos Aaron personally calibrates the interface, his mechadendrites making minute adjustments to settings I cannot begin to comprehend. Brother Thule stands ready with a bolt pistol, though whether it is meant for Brother Falmius or for me should something go wrong, I cannot say. As the neural crown is lowered onto my head, I feel the familiar pain of needles penetrating my scalp, seeking connection with my brain. But this time, rather than extracting, they are creating pathways, building bridges between my consciousness and something other. Initiating primary connection. In 3, 2, 1, Magos Aaron intones. The world dissolves. I am falling through endless fractals of thought, each branching into infinite possibilities. Colors that have no name in human language wash over me, sounds that exist beyond the spectrum of hearing pulse through what remains of my sense of self. This is not communication as I understand it. This is immersion in an ocean of raw consciousness. Fascinating, I hear Magos Aaron's voice, distant and distorted. His neural patterns are stabilizing. He is establishing coherent interface. Gradually, the chaos resolves into something I can process. Not order, precisely, but patterns I can navigate. And within those patterns, a presence. Many presences, I realize with shock, not just Brother Falmius, but others, Brother Carolus. The other mutated Astartes. And beyond them, something vast and patient, watching through their eyes, experiencing through their transformed senses. Candidate Velton, Dravus's voice penetrates the experience. Can you describe what you are perceiving? I try to respond, to form words with a mouth that seems disconnected from my consciousness. Many, I manage to say. Not alone. They are .networked, connected to something larger. As we suspected, Magos Aaron comments, the mutation creates a psychic link between affected individuals. a gestalt consciousness. But it is more than that. The presences are aware of me now, curious about this new mind that has joined their communion. I feel Brother Falmius examining me, his consciousness so transformed that little remains of what must once have been a proud Astartes warrior. Yet there is recognition, understanding of what I represent. Failed seed. His thoughts whisper directly into mine. Perfect vessel, unclaimed potential. I recoil mentally from the implications. I serve the chapter. I project back, uncertain if this communication is being monitored by Dravus and the Magos. You serve what you believe the chapter to be, Brother Falmius responds. But the chapter serves the Emperor, and the Emperor intended humanity to evolve. To transcend, we are that transcendence. The certainty in his thoughts is absolute. There is no doubt, no fear. Whatever Brother Falmius has become, he believes completely in his transformation. The others like you, I ask, remembering my purpose, how many are there? 17 within this fortress monastery, comes the reply. Hundreds across the sector, thousands throughout the Imperium. The change spreads, mind to mind, implant to implant. What began as accident becomes purpose. I feel a chill despite the clinical warmth of the laboratory. This is mutation, corruption. This is evolution, Brother Falmius corrects. The Primarchs were evolution, the Astartes were evolution. We are simply the next iteration, unplanned by the Emperor perhaps, but necessary for what comes. What comes? I cannot help but ask. Images flood my mind. Stars going dark one by one. Vast hive fleets approaching from the void between galaxies. The golden light of the Astronomicon flickering, weakening. Humanity huddled on its million worlds, ignorant of the encroaching end. The final war, Brother Falmius explains, not against Xenos or heretics or the ruinous powers. The war against extinction itself. Baseline humanity cannot win this war. The Astartes, for all their might, cannot win this war. Only what comes next has any hope of survival. The conviction in his thoughts is terrible to behold. I sense no madness, no delusion. Only absolute certainty based on information I cannot access, perspectives I cannot share. The chapter will destroy you, I tell him. They seek a cure, a way to reverse the mutation. A sensation like laughter ripples through the connection. They seek to control what they cannot understand. Just as they sought to control you, failed seed, to use your rejection as a weapon against us. But you are more valuable than they know. You are the bridge. Bridge to what? To controlled evolution. Your resistance holds the key, not to stopping the change, but to directing it, shaping it. The perfect vessel, unmarked by previous transformation, yet compatible with what we have become. I feel the other presences moving closer in the mental space, examining me from angles I cannot comprehend. Brother Carolus is there, his consciousness less alien than Falmius, but already changing, transforming. You promised me purpose. I project toward Carolus. You said I would become more than Astartes. And so you shall, Carolus responds. The Magos and the Chief Apothecary believe they are using you to communicate with us, to understand us. In truth, we are using this connection for something far more significant. I try to withdraw, suddenly afraid, but find myself held in place within the neural interface. Something is happening, a transfer of information far beyond what should be possible through this connection. Not just data, but changes to my very neural architecture. I am being rewritten, recoded from within. What are you doing to me? I cry out, uncertain if the words leave my physical mouth or merely echo within the mental space. Fulfilling your potential, Falmius answers, preparing the vessel. When the time comes, you will know what to do. The connection begins to destabilize. I feel the Magos initiating disconnection protocols, perhaps sensing that something has gone wrong. As the neural pathways between us begin to close, Brother Falmius leaves me with a final thought. 3 days, Laboratory Delta, the first of many transformations begins. Reality crashes back with brutal suddenness. I gasp for air, my body convulsing against the restraints of the neural interface. Alarms sound throughout Laboratory Epsilon. Servitors move with mechanical precision to stabilize my vital signs. Through blurred vision, I see Dravus and Magos Eren bent over monitoring equipment, their expressions grim. Neural patterns highly irregular, the Magos states. Possible contamination. Purge the interface. Dravus orders. Full quarantine protocols. The neural crown is removed from my head, each needle withdrawal sending fresh pain through my skull. My thoughts are chaos, fragments of what was shared with me mixing with my own consciousness. I try to focus, to separate myself from the alien presences that touched my mind, but the boundaries feel permeable now, uncertain. Candidate Velton, Dravus addresses me directly. Report. What did you experience? I hesitate. If I reveal everything, they will likely execute me immediately as a contamination risk. If I reveal nothing, I lose the opportunity to serve the chapter with valuable intelligence. But there is a third option. Partial truth. Carefully presented. They are connected, I manage to say, my voice hoarse. A network of consciousness. Brother Falmius believes the mutation is not corruption but evolution, a necessary adaptation for humanity to survive some coming threat. Delusional justification, Magos Eren dismisses. Common among those undergoing extreme mutation, the mind creates narratives to rationalize its own corruption. Did he speak of others beyond those we know about? Dravus presses. I nod weakly. He claimed there are 17 within the fortress monastery, hundreds across the sector, thousands throughout the Imperium. The mutation spreads through mental contact, from one augmented Astartes to another. This information causes visible alarm. Dravus and the Magos exchange significant glances. If this is true, Dravus says slowly, the threat is far greater than we estimated. The containment protocols are insufficient. Magos Eren agrees. We must inform the chapter master immediately. They continue their discussion, temporarily forgetting my presence. I lie on the interface platform, my mind reeling from what has been done to me. I can feel the changes beginning already, subtle adjustments to neural pathways, new connections forming where none existed before. I should be terrified. I should be begging the apothecaries for help, for purification. Instead, I feel a growing sense of anticipation, of purpose. The failed aspirant who could not become Astartes will become something else entirely, something perhaps even greater. Return Candidate Velton to quarantine on level 4. Dravus finally orders, full monitoring, no contact with other personnel until we determine the extent of potential contamination. 2 servitors help me to my feet. My legs feel strange beneath me, as though the proportions have changed slightly. An illusion, surely. The physical changes cannot have begun so soon. As I am escorted from Laboratory Epsilon, I catch a final glimpse of Brother Falmius in his containment sphere. The vertical slit in his face has widened further, and I swear it forms what might be interpreted as a smile. Quarantine on level 4 is a sterile cell, white walls and constant illumination. Neural monitors attached to my skull record every brainwave, every dream, every thought, or so the apothecaries believe. What they do not understand is that I have been given the knowledge to manipulate these readings, to show them exactly what they expect to see. A mind recovering from trauma, but otherwise untainted. A loyal servant of the chapter, shaken but steadfast. In truth, I am changing by the hour. The seeds planted in my consciousness by Brother Falmius and Brother Carolus are growing, spreading, transforming my understanding. I see connections I never noticed before, patterns in the chapter's operations, weaknesses in their security protocols. Knowledge that was never mine now unfolds in my thoughts as naturally as memories. 3 days, Brother Falmius had said. 3 days until whatever has been set in motion reaches its next phase. I must be patient, I must be careful. I must give the apothecaries exactly what they want to see. On the second day of quarantine, Chief Apothecary Dravus himself comes to interview me. He stands outside the transparent wall of my cell, studying me with ancient eyes that have seen 10,000 years of war and transformation. "Your neural patterns have stabilized," he informs me. "No obvious signs of contamination." "I am grateful to hear it, Lord," I respond, the perfect picture of deference. "What you experienced in Laboratory Epsilon," Dravus continues, "the connection with Brother Falmius. Describe it again, in detail." I do so, carefully omitting any mention of the changes to my neural architecture, of the information transferred, of the promises made. I speak of confusion, of alien thought patterns, of struggle to maintain my sense of self, all things they would expect to hear. Brother Falmius spoke of evolution, I tell Dravus, of transcendence. He believed the mutation was not a corruption but the next step for humanity. "A common delusion among the corrupted," Dravus says dismissively. "They always believe their degeneration is actually ascension." "Yes, Lord, I agree." It was disturbing to witness such conviction in obvious heresy. Dravus studies me carefully. "You feel no sympathy for his position, no curiosity about what he has become, only revulsion, Lord." I lie smoothly, "and gratitude that my failure to become Astartes spared me such a fate." He nods slowly, seemingly satisfied. "You have served the chapter well, Candidate Velton. Few would have withstood such mental contact without breaking. Your resistance to the mutation may prove more valuable than any of us anticipated." "I live to serve, Chief Apothecary. Tomorrow you will be released from quarantine," Dravus informs me. "Return to your normal duties in the rejection ward. In 5 days, report to Laboratory Delta for follow-up examination. We will determine then if further neural interface sessions are warranted." 5 days. 2 days beyond what Brother Falmius indicated would be the beginning of transformation. I wonder if the apothecaries have altered their schedules, perhaps sensing something amiss. It changes nothing. The seeds are already planted. The process has already begun. "Thank you, Chief Apothecary," I respond. "I will not disappoint your trust." After Dravus leaves, I sit on the edge of my narrow bed and close my eyes. Within the privacy of my mind, I explore the changes taking place. New neural pathways forming, connecting parts of my brain that were never meant to communicate directly. Enhanced perception, allowing me to sense the electrical fields of the monitoring equipment, to feel the vibrations of the fortress monastery around me. And more troubling, the presence of others at the edges of my consciousness. Distant yet, but growing clearer. The mutated Astartes reaching out, connecting, forming the network that Brother Falmius described. I am becoming a node in that network, a junction point with unique properties due to my uncorrupted physical form. That night, I dream of transformation. In the dream, my body remains human in appearance, but inside, I am changing. My organs shift and realign. My brain expands, developing new structures, new capabilities. I am becoming something unprecedented, neither failed aspirant nor corrupted Astartes, but something designed for a specific purpose. When I wake, I know what I must do. The instructions left by Brother Falmius are clear now, unfolding in my mind like a meticulously crafted battle plan. 3 objectives to be completed before reporting to Laboratory Delta. 3 steps toward transformation. True to Dravus's word, I am released from quarantine the following morning. I return to the rejection ward on level 3, resuming my duties as if nothing has changed. The failed aspirants in their stasis pods seem different to me now. Their failures no longer reminders of shame but experiments that yielded insufficient results. Data points in the greater pattern of evolution. I check Pod 17 first. Coven, whose catalepsy and node rejection caused irregular brain activity. The modifications I made to his nutrient mixture before my time in Laboratory Epsilon have had an effect. His brain patterns have shifted, become more regular, more coherent. Not random spikes now, but a clear signal, he is ready. The first objective is simple. Using my newfound knowledge of the chapter's systems, I adjust the stasis field frequency on Pod 17. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would trigger alarms, just enough to create a resonance pattern that will gradually amplify over the next 24 hours. The second objective requires access to the gene seed cultivation chambers on level 4. As a servitor handler with maintenance duties, I have legitimate reason to be there, checking the external monitoring equipment. What the apothecaries do not realize is that I now understand the equipment far beyond my assigned tasks. When no one is watching, I make a subtle adjustment to the nutrient medium flowing into cultivation tank 7. Again, nothing that would trigger alarms, just a shift in the chemical balance that will affect the development of the progenoid glands being grown there. A change that will make them more receptive to the mutation vector carried by Brother Carolus and the others. The third objective is the most dangerous. I need access to the chapter's communication array to send a coded transmission, not to any human receiver, but to a specific frequency used by the mutated Astartes to coordinate across vast distances. The array is located on level 2, normally restricted to communications officers and their servitors. I time my approach carefully. The changing of shifts provides a brief window when the array is minimally staffed. I bring a maintenance servitor with me, presenting falsified work orders for routine calibration. The single communications officer on duty gives the orders only a cursory glance before waving me through. Once, at the auxiliary control panel, I work quickly. The servitor provides a screen for my activities as I access the transmission protocols. The message is simple. A burst of encoded data that will appear as random static to anyone monitoring Imperial frequencies. But to those attuned to receive it, it contains a precise timestamp and confirmation that the fortress monastery's defenses are being prepared for compromise. Task complete. I withdraw from the communications array and return to level 3. No alarms sound. No one questions my movements. To all appearances, I am still Marius Velton, failed aspirant turned loyal servant. A non-entity beneath the notice of the battle brothers who stride the upper levels in their magnificent power armor, defending the Imperium from its enemies. If they only knew that the greatest threat was already inside their walls, inside their very minds. That night, in my small cell, I feel the changes accelerating. My body temperature rises as internal modifications increase my metabolic rate. My vision sharpens, colors becoming more vivid, the spectrum expanding to include frequencies normally invisible to human eyes. My hearing grows more acute, picking up conversations 3 cells away, the hum of power conduits behind the walls, the subtle shift of the fortress monastery settling into the mountain. Sleep, when it comes, brings more dreams of connection. The network expanding, nodes lighting up across the sector as the mutated Astartes reach out to one another. And at the center of it all, something vast and patient, directing the transformation with purpose I cannot yet fully comprehend. I wake before dawn, my body drenched in sweat but stronger than it has ever been. Today I report to Laboratory Delta, as instructed by Chief Apothecary Dravus. But first, I must check on the progress of my 3 objectives. The rejection ward is quiet as I enter, most of the monitoring servitors in standby mode. I move directly to Pod 17. The stasis field resonance has amplified exactly as planned. Kaven's brain activity has stabilized into a perfect, rhythmic pattern, synchronized with the subtle pulse now emanating from the pod itself. Soon, very soon, he will wake. I do not have authorized access to the gene seed cultivation chambers today, but I do not need physical presence to know what is happening there. Through my enhanced perceptions, I can feel the changes in cultivation tank 7. The progenoid glands developing there are becoming something new, something that will transform any aspirant who receives them into a vector for further mutation. As for the transmission I sent, I know it was received. The distant minds connected to the network pulse with anticipation, with preparation. Events have been set in motion that cannot be stopped, not by the Iron Templars, not by the Inquisition, not even by the High Lords of Terra themselves. Brother Thule comes for me mid-morning, His expression remains as unreadable as ever, but there is tension in his massive frame, a wariness that suggests he senses something amiss without being able to identify its source. "Candidate Velton," he addresses me. "Chief Apothecary Dravis awaits you in Laboratory Delta." "Yes, Brother Apothecary, I am ready." As we walk to the elevator, I notice subtle changes in the Fortress Monastery's operations. More battle brothers in the corridors than usual, increased servitor activity in the security checkpoints. The chapter is preparing for something, though they do not yet know the true nature of the threat they face. Laboratory Delta is more crowded than my previous visits. In addition to Chief Apothecary Dravis and Magos Erin, there are 2 other apothecaries present, as well as a figure I have never seen before. A space marine in armor of deepest black, but bearing no chapter insignia. An arm of gleaming silver betrays his identity even before I see the inquisitorial rosette hanging at his belt. Deathwatch. The stasis pod containing Brother Carolus stands at the center of the laboratory as before, but additional restraint fields have been established around it, layers of protection against what the pod contains. Carolus himself has changed since I last saw him. The mutation has advanced, his body now resembling more closely what I witnessed with Brother Falmius. The enlarged eye pulses with inner light, tracking my movements as I enter. "Candidate Velton," Dravis acknowledges me. "Your neural patterns during quarantine showed no signs of contamination, but Inquisitor Vex has requested a more thorough examination before we proceed with further interface attempts." The Deathwatch Marine steps forward, his augmetic eye whirring as it focuses on me. "The situation has escalated beyond a chapter matter," he states, his voice a deep rumble. "Similar mutations have been reported in 3 other chapters across the sector. The pattern suggests coordinated activity rather than random corruption." I bow my head respectfully. "I will submit to any examination the Inquisition deems necessary, Lord." "Your cooperation is noted," Inquisitor Vex responds coldly. Though irrelevant to the procedure, he gestures, and servitors wheel forward a device I have not seen before. It resembles the neural interface used in Laboratory Epsilon, but is clearly of inquisitorial design, more brutal in its approach, less concerned with the survival of its subject. "This is a mnemonicron," Vex explains to Dravis rather than to me. "It will extract the subject's memories directly and display them for analysis. No possibility of deception or contaminated filtering." Fear flickers through me. Such a device would reveal everything: the changes to my neural architecture, the knowledge implanted by Brother Falmius, the objectives I have already completed. Discovery would mean immediate execution, but as the servitors prepare the mnemonicron, I sense something else. A pulse of energy from the stasis pod containing Brother Carolus. The resonance pattern established in Pod 17 on Level 3, amplified and redirected. The timing is perfect. The transformation begins now. The first alarm sounds distant, from somewhere in the upper levels of the Fortress Monastery, then another, closer. The lights in Laboratory Delta flicker momentarily. The apothecaries and Inquisitor Vex turn toward the communication panel as it comes to life with urgent reports. "Security breach in the Apothecarian on Level 1, a voice reports. "Unknown assailants. Multiple casualties." "Impossible," Dravis responds. "The Fortress Monastery is impregnable." "Not from within," I murmur, too softly for any but enhanced hearing to detect. More alarms join the first. Reports flood in from multiple levels. The gene seed repositories, the armory, the communications array, simultaneous attacks, perfectly coordinated, all from within the Fortress Monastery itself. Servitor malfunction, one report states. They've turned on the maintenance crews. Stasis field failure in rejection ward. Another reports. Failed aspirants breaking containment. Inquisitor Vex turns his augmetic eye upon me, suspicion hardening into certainty. "You," he says, reaching for his bolt pistol. "What have you done?" But it is too late. The stasis field around Brother Carolus fluctuates, then collapses entirely. The restraint fields follow, one by one, failing in rapid succession. Alarms scream throughout Laboratory Delta as the containment protocols unravel. Brother Carolus rises from the pod, his mutated form unfolding to its full height. The apothecaries and the Inquisitor react instantly, weapons drawn, moving to contain the threat, but they are too slow, too limited in their understanding of what Brother Carolus has become. Energy pulses from the enlarged eye in his skull, a wave of force that sends everyone in the laboratory crashing against the walls. Everyone except me. I stand untouched, protected by the changes already taking place within my own body. Time has come. Marius Velton. Brother Carolus speaks aloud for the first time, his voice a harmonious blend of tones that seem to resonate directly with my nervous system. The vessel is prepared. The transformation begins. Inquisitor Vex struggles to his feet, bolt pistol still clutched in his hand. In the Emperor's name, he gasps. What heresy is this? Not heresy, Inquisitor, I respond, my own voice changing as I speak, gaining harmonics impossible for a human throat to produce. Evolution. The Emperor created the Primarchs. From them, the Astartes. And now, what comes next? Vex fires his bolt pistol. The mass-reactive round speeds toward my chest, a killing shot that would end any normal human. But I am no longer normal. My perception has accelerated to the point where the bullet seems to crawl through the air. With reflexes I should not possess, I simply step aside, letting the round pass harmlessly by. Impossible, Vex whispers. Brother Carolus moves to my side, placing a mutated hand upon my shoulder. The perfect vessel, he says, unclaimed by previous transformation, the bridge between what was and what will be. Chief Apothecary Dravus has regained his feet as well, his ancient face contorted with a mixture of horror and fascination. Candidate Velton, he says, whatever they have promised you is a lie. This is corruption, not evolution, not the Emperor's will. I look at him with something approaching pity. You have served faithfully, Chief Apothecary, but your understanding is limited by what you were designed to be. Just as the Astartes were designed with limitations to prevent another heresy, what comes next will have no such limitations. Throughout the fortress monastery, the carefully orchestrated collapse of security systems continues. The modified gene seed in Cultivation Tank 7 has released spores into the ventilation system, carrying the mutation vector to every level. The servitors, reprogrammed through the subtle adjustments I made over the past 3 days, turn against their masters. The failed aspirants, awakening from stasis-like cavern in Pod 17, find themselves changing, evolving, becoming nodes in the expanding network. And beyond the walls of the fortress monastery, across the sector, similar transformations are taking place in other chapters. The signal I sent has triggered a coordinated emergence of what has been growing in secret for decades. What are you becoming? Magos Aaron asks, his mechanical voice containing something like reverence. The Mechanicus, always fascinated by evolution, by transformation, even when it should inspire only horror. Something necessary, I tell him. The final adaptation before the coming storm. That which will preserve humanity when all other defenses fail. Brother Carolus turns toward the mnemonicron, the device intended to expose my deception. With a gesture, he causes it to activate, but not to extract memories. Instead, it begins to broadcast, to amplify the signal already spreading through the fortress monastery. The signal that awakens potential, that triggers transformation in those with compatible neural architecture. Inquisitor Vex makes a final, desperate move. From his belt he takes a small device, a deadman switch connected to what can only be an explosive charge powerful enough to destroy the entire laboratory. The Emperor's mercy is swift, he declares, his finger moving toward the activation rune. I do not try to stop him physically. Instead, I reach out with my newly awakened abilities, touching his mind directly. Not to control, not to corrupt, but to show him what I have seen. The coming darkness, the encroaching end, the final war for which the Imperium, for all its might, remains unprepared. Vex's finger stops a millimeter from the rune. His augmetic eye whirs frantically as his organic eye widens in shock. "Throne of Terror," he whispers. "It cannot be." "But it is," I tell him gently, "and deep inside you have always known. The Imperium cannot survive as it is. Change must come, or all will be lost." For a moment, the laboratory is silent, save for the distant alarms. Then Vex slowly lowers the deadman switch. A choice made not through corruption or control, but through understanding. The first of many such choices to come. Brother Carolus steps toward the laboratory entrance. "It is time to complete your transformation, Marius Velton. The others await in Laboratory Epsilon." I nod and move to follow him. At the doorway, I pause and look back at Chief Apothecary Dravus, at Magos Erin, at Inquisitor Vex. The old authorities, the established powers, now faced with evolution they cannot control. "You once told me I would see what true failure looks like, Chief Apothecary," I say to Dravus. "But true failure is not in rejection. It is in refusing to adapt when adaptation is necessary for survival." With those words, I leave Laboratory Delta for the last time. The fortress monastery of the Iron Templars, once impregnable, now transforms from within. Those battle brothers who cannot adapt will fall. Those who can will become something greater. And I, Marius Velton, once a failed aspirant, will lead them into the new age. As Brother Carolus and I descend to Level 6, to Laboratory Epsilon where Brother Falmius and the others await, I feel the final changes beginning within me. Not mutations of flesh, but expansions of consciousness. My mind reaching out to touch the vast network growing across the stars. And beyond that network, the patient, ancient intelligence that has guided this evolution from the beginning. Not the Emperor, no. Something older. Something that existed before humanity crawled from Terra's oceans. Something that has waited millions of years for a species with the potential to become what is needed. I was Marius Velton. I failed to become a space marine, but I have succeeded in becoming something far more significant. The vessel. The bridge. The first of what comes after Astartes. And as the transformation completes, I understand at last what it truly means to serve. Not the chapter, not the Imperium, not even the Emperor, but existence itself. In the war that has always been coming, the war against the final darkness, against the end of all things. This is what it is like to be a failed space marine. To find purpose not in rejection, but in becoming what was truly needed all along.